Hello, it's Brad Laurie, and today we're talking with Steve Way. He is the CEO of the Top Network, and he is here once again to explain exactly what Top Network is, but more importantly, to provide you as a very key update into exactly what they are doing and how they're going to unfold all the way through until public release. So, Steve, thank you very much for your time today.
Thank you, Brad, and hello, everyone. I'm very pleasure to have this opportunity to talk to Brad and the community. Yeah.
And likewise, mate, I do appreciate your time. Obviously, you're very busy as the CEO and founder of the Top Network. Now, what's interesting about what you're doing, Steve, is that you are trying to bring a new kind of communication system and network utilizing blockchain and other technologies beyond that. You explain that you are the cloud communication service on blockchain and that you're low cost, secure, fast, and you're a public communication network. Lots of information there. So let's bring that down. You are a full stack solution, all about communication. Tell us a bit about exactly what TOP stands for, Steve.
TOP, first, TOP means we define a protocol. We call it Taylor's protocol, and so we use the name TOP. And this protocol defined decentralized communication, how it works. And it includes many pieces because each communication service has a different sense, like messenger, calling, VPN, all different. But our mission is trying to provide a full stack of communication service because there are so many communication apps, and each communication may have a different requirement. So that's our mission. However, we will start from one by one, from the easiest one, actually the VPN service. Then we will start from the messenger service, the streaming service, increment one by one, because the whole stack is really very complicated. You need a lot of knowledge and experience to implement that. And our team have been in the communication industry for very long, over 20 years. And in the past, we did many things. We had conference stuff, product, video conference, audio conference. We have messengers. We have VPN app.
Yes.
We also
Yes, I'm going to just jump in there for a moment so that we can cover all of this, Steve. Now, what you're really showcasing is that, or highlighting, is that you have a team that have got more than 20 years experience in the communications industry, pre-blockchain, pre-DLT, and that's important. We'll look at that. But Steve, I want to pull it back to this concept of a full stack. Now, you talk about the importance of a full stack. You're leading this technology to build it. What is a full stack essentially, for those who don't quite possibly understand, and why does it even matter to have a full stack?
Now, if we look at the communication service, not the telecom, we call it internet communication. Telecom actually is slightly different with the internet communication. If we look at the internet communication apps, so we found that there are several different categories. For example, say messenger apps. So they're basically using messenger protocol like WhatsApp, iMessage, Facebook Messenger, Telegram, CoverMe, all those kind of messenger apps. And this is one category. And there are real-time calling apps. We call it real-time communication, like make a phone call, video call, like a FaceTime, like a Zoom, right? So of course, Zoom is a multiple party. Video calling usually means one-to-one. So that's another category. And there are also like a VPN apps, is a proxy service. A lot of people are using VPN, especially in certain countries. And there is other category like streaming apps. And they are using the live streaming service. So, and there is also like a CDN service. So they are about like, I think they are about like 6 to 7 basically communication categories, and we will implement every category. So that's the full stack.
I see. So just to clarify, so if we use the analogy of, say, a building, for example, every single level in that building can represent different categories, and you're literally building the entire building right from the ground up. Okay.
Yeah. So and one more thing, brother, there's one more thing. Communication usually means like, audio, video call, and there's another stack. It's, we say it's audio and video processing stack. Means like a compression, encoder, decoder, and the signal compression, all those kind of things, is just another stack. It's included in that.
Right, so another layer that you built in. Now, Steve, let's explore exactly what different levels in this stack mean, especially when it comes to business, especially when it comes to potential for engagement for users and those perhaps don't even know about blockchain. Now, we know many of them already, pre-blockchain, such as video, live streaming, VoIP. Obviously, there's a key speaker with Celsius Network who was the original inventor of VoIP, and that's Alex Mashinsky. He's also explaining that there's great use cases. VPN, as we're talking about, CDN, IoT, data storage. I mean, let's break this down though, Steve. Let's start with VPN. What is it, and why is it so relevant to what you're trying to do?
Oh, that's a very good question. VPN, is the simplest communication app, and the VPN app is really, I would say VPN is a very dangerous application because it's correct all your information. For example, you go to Google, the VPN app knows you go to Google, right? And it keeps all your internet connection, your activities. And a centralized VPN is so dangerous because the owner can correct all the information. Remember 2 weeks ago, Apple shut down a lot of Facebook apps. And one of the Facebook apps is a VPN app. Actually, it's correct user information. And Apple is really mad at that. And they remove the app from App Store. Facebook is a reasonable good company, right? And they are still doing something evil. Let's say if the VPN is owned by a small company in some weird countries, you can imagine how bad they can do to the user. So a decentralized VPN will remove all those kind of evil things because the user information is stored in the blockchain, decentralized, nobody owns the data, and the internet connection is going through random nodes, and nobody can control all those nodes. So it means nobody can monitor your internet connection. So that's a huge benefit to move VPN to blockchain. And what we are doing is build a common VPN layer. So anybody can build a VPN app on top of network. For example, let's say, Iran people, Iran government is shut down the international internet. So Iran basically just become a local land. People cannot access outside the website.
Okay.
But TopNet will enable Iran developer quickly build a VPN application. He doesn't need to understand how to build a VPN. He just need to get a good name, put a user interface, and release the app. That's it.
And you raise a really good point there, because what your decentralized VPN system is going to do, you provide the full stack, you provide all the technology, you provide the interface and the platform. And then, as you mentioned, with the example with Iran, is that countries or people or enterprises, any party can really tap in or plug into your system. They don't have to go and create theirs from scratch. Now, let's explore this a little bit further. Now, VPN's one thing. You are an expert and your team in VPN technology. You are working on BitVPN. Talk us through that. What is it, and how far along are you in developing it?
So, BitVPN is our own implementation of a decentralized VPN. Actually, that would be the world's first decentralized VPN. The app actually is already implemented. It's done, but we haven't announced that. We are choosing a right time to announce the launch of BitVPN. So the product is quite a bit ready, and you can download the app from the App Store and the Google Play Store. And with that VPN, it will be much safe and more privacy protection than traditional VPN apps.
Right. And what's exciting, Steve, also is that I read on the website that you've put up for Top Network, and you have a significant number of users already experimenting with that VPN, 10 million, in fact, I think I read. Is that the correct number?
Oh, no, it's already 18 million VPN users now, because it's growing very quickly. Typically, we are getting 50,000 or 100,000 new users per day. So last time we talked, it's about 10 million users. That's the number on our website, and now it's 80 million users.
Wow! So it's almost doubled just in a few months.
Yeah, the wonderful thing is, those users will be moved to BitVPN and then on the blockchain, decentralized.
Yes, and we're going to talk about how that porting of users is likely to happen, because that's something, again, that really adds to the veracity and the real use case of Top Network, because you're going to have real users very quickly transition, and I need to explore how you're going to do that. But with regard to the technology itself, Steve, I mean, obviously there are certain ways in which you do this. You have a whole suite of technologies. I've had to write down, there's so many. Now you have two-layered lattice, you have two-layered sharding, you have two-layered VMs, and you have a high-speed parallel system, obviously linked with clustering and making sure that you can shard properly to improve efficiency and scalability. That's a lot. So Steve, what I wanted to ask was, how long did it take you to build this very complicated consensus mechanism and technological base for what you're building as a communication?
Yes, that's an excellent question. First of all, blockchain project, typical blockchain project, recently you see, it has a small team, maybe 10 people or 20 people at most. And such kind of team really cannot do a lot of things like us. And for us, we have a lot of developers and high quality developers. We are in the communication business, so our developer is really high-end developer. Means like they are using C++, and they implement infrastructure layer, all those kind of people. So those people are really qualified for blockchain development. It's difficult to develop a blockchain. For example, if you find a JavaScript developer, an iOS developer, or Android developer, they cannot do that.
Right.
And put such a team quickly is not easy. And we happen to have such a large team already there. So
just to clarify, and I apologize for jumping in sometimes, it's only to really make sure we can clarify some things. Your team that you're using for Top, you've actually brought in from all of the experience, I assume, from you and the other advisors that you have and your other team members who through their contacts. Did you get a lot of these from the communications industry and bring them in? Is that how you quickly built this team?
No. I mean, we already have the team before the blockchain project. It's difficult to put a team quickly. There is no way to do that because, most of the people are already in the web development, mobile development, because that's the large demand, right? Communication developers, it's a small pool of people, and you really cannot find them quickly.
So you knew them. You had all the connections before, Steve, with your experience. And so how big is the team now with regard to all of the expertise, the engineering, all of the skill sets?
So we have around 30 people, the core people. They are in the top network communication and blockchain side. And they are doing this very quickly. And back to your original question, you ask, there are so many things, and how can we implement? Yeah, because, there's one more thing. We started the project actually very early. So it's already over 1 year now. I think we actually started from 2017, September. So almost, I think almost 8 months.
A year and a half, right.
Yeah. So we are not like, quickly, out of blue say, oh, we already have something. It's not like this. We are actually we're working low profile, stealth model, working for very, very long. And as you know, we already launched the Testnet, and we already implemented the major technology piece outlined in the white paper, like two-layer sharding, two-layer VM. Majority of them were already implemented that. So we already passed that stages. Say something like is not still not proof.
Right.
We already proved every our
Well,
major
Steve,
technology ideas.
Steve, let's talk about, and again, apologize for interrupting, but let's talk about some of that proof of the theory, because obviously when we read the white paper, or having read it many times in the past, it seems like a very, very ambitious sort of a suite of technological underpinnings and plans. Now, when we talk about all these two-layer solutions and these two-layer approaches, how can we know those, Steve? You mentioned the testnet's already actionable, it's already it's already live, but how can someone, particularly a dev, go and explore this, ensure that these things are up and running, that they are successful, and that they actually are doing what the white paper says, in that it's addressing the scalability for communication networks?
Yeah, that's another good question. Actually, tonight we have an event with a community. The community name is called ABC Community. That's a blockchain community, developer blockchain community in Silicon Valley, organized by many Google and Facebook engineers. So those people are really understand blockchain technologies. So that event, we are actually inviting them, those engineers, good engineers, to review our designs, to review our code.
Right.
And we want them to provide feedback to us, or find bugs, or find some new idea to improve our code.
Right.
The blockchain the blockchain world is open. However, at this stage, we cannot open source because we are still in the early stage. We are still doing a lot of development. So it's not the time to open source that. However, we still need outside people to engage in the process. So it's like I would say it's like semi open source.
And that's good to hear that you're getting some of the peer reviews for the utility functionality. And I mean that in the sense of looking at the mechanics of how this is going to be actualized for real applications, because we hear about discussions, Steve, about peer reviews of white papers, but that's still a review or something theoretical, and you are already beyond that with the proof in moving this forward into the real world.
Not a white paper review. It's not useful. We are inviting developers to review code.
Exactly.
To use the design document. It's not a white paper. It's like means more than yellow paper actually.
Yes.
It's like
That's the point.
Information document.
Sure, that's the point I'm making, is that in the past there have been companies that have done the peer reviews on a very different way, with a theoretical underpinning or a theoretical premise. And what you're doing is you're saying, guys, we have something real. It's already live. Have a look at the code. Give us your feedback, because you're also colleagues and experts in the field. You're in the Silicon Valley. Your whole team have experience. You work with these people every day. So it must be exciting that you're developing this interest in the Silicon Valley for people to say, wow, this possibly can work. What's the feedback been so far, though, pre-meeting tonight? How has the sentiment been when they have looked at your code?
We just get started, and we are still implementing the process, and because we cannot let them do the free work, so we will give some it's like a bounty, right? But it's not exactly like a bounty. So we will give them the compensation for doing this job, and we need to find a way to check the results, the quality of the work, and we're just getting started. And I will report that to you if once we get more.
That would be great. That'll be fantastic, Steve.
And you know what? Because I didn't know, somebody else is doing like this, so we need to figure out a way to do that. And actually, we are using one of the services. The service is called Gitcoin. Actually, it's a very interesting service. One of my friends recommended that service. That service is like, you ask all the site developer do something, and they contribute the code, and it calculate or it is send a reward to that people. Such kind of thing with Bitcoin or ETH.
I see. So you're literally incentivizing developers.
Oh yeah, of course. Even though blockchain is a community based, but from my opinion, everybody should be rewarded, right, with the work. There's no free work. Free work is not good. Is no good.
Right. Well, just to clarify though, this interview is free for the people, so people are aware of it. But obviously, there are ambassador programs run even by the top network, so it is important that people do know, Steve, that this is a free interview. Now, I want to talk to you a bit more. We've discussed briefly the complex technology, and I don't want to keep going on that. But if someone would like to know more, they can go on the website. And in the future, I would like to talk to the CTO and really explore those complicated parts of Lattice, really looking at the sharding. They essentially make things more scalable. So let's move across to the benefits of this technology, what it actually does. Let's talk about TPS. You make some really big claims about the potential. Does it even matter that you can do 100,000 TPS, Steve? And what can you do right now?
So our testnet has, I think it's about like 8,000 TPS with 4 shards.
Yes.
And I think it's a very good start. And once our mainnet is launched, obviously it will have more shards than that, maybe 20 shards or even more. So at that time, I think the initial phase, we will have several thousand TPS. And that's good enough for the initial stage. And gradually, because the community, the blockchain platform is built by the community, right? You need to find the people gradually contribute more nodes to the platform. That will create more shards. Then we'll have more TPS, more high TPS.
Sure. And Steve, what's exciting is, it's about 8,400 approximately for that single shard right now. And in the documents and on the website, you make it very clear that you really envision the potential for about 100,000 TPS quite quickly, because there's a likelihood, I would imagine, for more nodes to be actualized, for more people using the nodes, operating the nodes to really improve the scalability. But the big question is, are you meeting the need anyway right now with the 8,000 as a benchmark? Are you confident that you have the scalability requirements to really do this, to really build this network out?
Oh, I think, if you look at our source code or technology, you will see, actually, the scaling is very real. And in the early, if you scale to say, from 4 shards to 40 shards, that the increase of TPS is almost, is linear. So for 40 shards, you will about like, I think at least 8 times of TPS than current testnet. And beyond that, the cross sharding transaction will become more and more. Performance is not going to expand very, very quickly. So there is a limit, but I think the current architecture can support us to our mission, support like 100,000 TPS. That's a fair, reasonable goal for us, based on our current test result.
Sure, and Steve, you're moving fast as well, that's for sure. Since we spoke last, and even the very initial time we spoke, things are really heating up with all of the improvements, and then moving forward into release as a fully functional public system. Now, some of the terminology that you do use in explaining TOP is multi-chain, and that there's 3 layers of distributed technology in that system. So Talk us through the importance of multi-chain. What exactly do you mean by that?
It's very, very important. Currently, like US Ethereum, there is only one chain, right? So this blockchain needed to handle everything. Means like, it has to process every transaction, and it's needed to save every bit of information in the transaction. So the main blockchain become a bottleneck. It really cannot process a lot of things. This one thing. Another thing, business logic is very complex. I mean, it's application logic, right? If we look at the financial application, it's simple, send a transaction from A to B. But if we look at other applications like communication application, gaming application, they have very complex business logic. And you cannot implement that logic in the main blockchain, because the main blockchain supports should only handle financial transaction. It shouldn't handle business logic.
Right.
So the benefit of service chain, you can implement service logic. For example, communication service logic in the service chain. Or if we have we are actually working with a company. They are doing some payment service in Africa. That's our partner. So we will work with them to implement a payment service chain. That payment service is very complex. There are many logics. Just not only send A from B like this. There are so many logics inside the whole process. So it's need a payment service. So that will be a payment service chain. And so we will have many service chains. So the service chain is used to handle business logically. And secondly, it's to reduce the number of transactions goes to the main chain. For example, for a VPN session, the main chain for one VPN session, the main chain will have only one record, one transaction. However, in the VPN service chain, it will have a lot of more record. So that means, the service chain reduces the number of transactions goes to the main chain.
I see. So in a nutshell, what you're saying, it almost takes sharding to another level, because you're splitting the chain into three so that you improve efficiency, so that different roles are afforded to different chains, so that everything runs in a more performant fashion. Is that a good way to explain it?
Yes. And, Brad, I believe a lot of layer 2 solutions, right? There are many layer 2 projects. They're using static channel to improve performance.
Right.
I think you can name several projects, but I don't want to name them. What we are doing actually, include a layer 2 solution there. The layer that is used to reduce the number of transactions. However, what we are doing is more than state channel. We are doing we are including the business logic in the layer 2. So that's we said, service chain and off chain. So think about it. The off chain is like a static channel, and the service chain is a service logic.
Yes.
Business logic.
Got it. So off-chain, a lot of different companies are also looking for that kind of layer 2 solution. You're also providing the business logic through the service chain, a lot of enterprise nuances there. Now let's talk about that in the context, Steve, with 50 million users. And I think you know exactly what I'm talking about. You have the potential to port over that kind of user base from existing apps, communication apps. I refer to them as SkyVPN, Dingtone, and CoverMe. You actually really know Dingtone. That's one of the companies that you certainly built from the ground up. Now, Steve, how important is it that you can actually do this, that you can take existing applications and bring them into the blockchain and literally bring in 50 million users potentially into top?
Good. So there are actually two questions. How we move from the users from the traditional world to the blockchain, and the second question, why it's important, right?
Right.
Let me answer the second question first. There are so many blockchain projects, whether live or still in development. However, we know most of them, or even 100% of them, don't have a lot of users, don't have a lot of real apps with real usage. And there are some DApps like gambling games on iOS, but the DAU is still very small, as you know. Yeah, and that's a huge problem for the industry. If in long time, let's say in 5 years, there is no real killing apps, killing service on the blockchain, this industry is in trouble.
Absolutely. So just to clarify, I mean, just so that for the reference of killing, you mean killer apps. So if there's no killer app in the sense of having true usership, people who may not be interested in blockchain, but they want to use the app that they think is cool and relevant.
Yes.
If that doesn't happen, you're suggesting the whole industry could collapse. So we need those real utilities. We take away the bullshit and bring in the real shit. That's how we would explain it as millennials. And so in that sense, Steve, you are saying that you are real and that you need those users. So talk us through that. You've got these 3 major apps. They aren't small, and you're going to transition into blockchain. So talk us through why that's important.
Yes. So, for us, our target customer is the developers, right? In the future, once the MainNet is launched, we want developers to build the apps on our network, in our ecosystem. However, you need to prove the system works, right? And you need to make sure the system has enough security, stability, and provide the function people need. So saying something is easy, right? Providing a real sense is not easy. And anyway, you need to prove that. And so there are 2 ways. One way is, okay, you have a MainNet and you try to invite some outside developer to build something on your platform. So that's exactly what other people are doing, other blockchain projects are doing. And but so far right now, it doesn't generate a good result. So far, we haven't seen any good result, right? Yeah. From a human nature, I'm also a developer. I own an app company, and if you ask me to develop an app on a new platform, I don't think I can make the decision quickly.
Right. Yeah. So what you're saying is 2 things there. You've got the experience. You've actually you're running your own company where you built applications from the ground up. And now you're suggesting what I'm hearing is having your own infrastructure, your blockchain infrastructure is going to be key to really bring on companies that relate to the industry of communication. So again, these 3 things align with your background and what you're trying to do with Top.
Yes. So once we moved the 3 apps to the ecosystem, and if they run smoothly, the user experience is good and performance is very good, the cost actually is lower than the traditional system. So that's all the benefits, right? And then we talk to outside, other developers, hey, if you needed to build a communication app, you don't do by your in-house stuff. You can build on the top network with our communication layer. That's really reduce your cost and
well, Steve, I need to just jump in for a moment. Let's pull it back though to the 50 million users for the 3. So Dingtone, SkyVPN, CoverMe, they're all relevant to making the transition as you build out this ecosystem. Now, 50 million is a lot of people. It's a lot more than the people in my country, actually. So, how is this going to happen, Steve? And what I want to know is, for the listeners, how is it going to be cheaper for the company so we can understand fundamentally why they would even do this, and also how can we ensure that transition will happen with the users, that they will actually utilize the new system you put in place?
So from the beginning, the top network, the communication layer, was from that 3 apps. So they basically have the very similar architecture, very similar interface. So that means, we just need to replace the existing communication layer of that 3 apps and with the new communication layer. And the process is transparent to the user because the user doesn't care about the underlying stuff, right? They don't know. They only know the user interfaces, the functions, and the performance. As long as those 3 things keep the same or better, user feel better, right? And so that's the absolute advantage of our project. We can transparent move the user. We don't need to totally implement a new thing and convert the user to a new app. That's too difficult.
So essentially what you're saying is that this transition will be seamless and almost invisible to the user, so that the infrastructure itself will transition, but people don't necessarily need to know if they're already utilizing those apps.
Yes, that's the only way to do that. And secondly, we need to keep the same fee model for the apps. For example, if the app is free, it should be still free. If the app charges users $1, it still should be $1. Because move to a decentralized world shouldn't change those kind of fee structure for the users, right?
Right.
And that's part of the way we keep a user happy, or at least they make sure they are not unhappy.
So Steve, in that sense, when we talk about these kinds of volumes of users, that's substantial. Is it fair to say that if this works out, you're going to lead the way with an example of a high number of users for any blockchain startup in 2019 to date? Because as you mentioned, there are not many examples empirically of this kind of 50 million user kind of number. So is it fair to say that you regard yourself as one of the leading utilities, especially when we're talking about the number of people utilizing it in a mass adoption scenario?
Yes. So far right now, as you said, there is no good examples, and we want to move quickly and want to be a good example,
right.
A good project.
So how's the evidence there with regard to the numbers? Have you already seen indicators, Steve, of people in the testnet phase, for example, using the system seamlessly and interacting?
So BitVPN would be an example. So we as I said, we haven't announced that, but the product is already there. So once available to the normal users, and then people can use that, and the transaction will show up in the testnet. And that's the way we are using this way to test our testnet, to improve the testnet. Because you really need the real users, real transactions to improve the product.
Sure.
The testnet can only do. Definitely we have a very good test team, but they can only do some of the job. They cannot do all, right?
Sure. Now, Steve, obviously you mentioned with regard to all the things you're building, you need people, you need users. That would also imply public. Now, at the moment, there's a lot of discussion with and debate about permissioned or permissionless systems, open or closed systems. You would know there's very strong argument from the enterprise sector to make things very closed because it benefits them. What do you say about the question of public blockchains? Obviously you are one, so are they important for the future?
Of course, the blockchain, the underlying layer, is very, very important for us, because our top network the communication layer has a really high volume of transactions, and right now most of the blockchain platform cannot support that. So we have our own blockchain platform to support that larger volume transactions. You mentioned the enterprise market, and our customer base is the developers. a developer could be an enterprise, it could be a small company, could be an individual, right?
Right.
But we don't care. We welcome everybody to develop apps on top of us.
Well, Steve, let's talk about that because you are the CEO, and enterprise is on the tip of many CEOs' tongues right now as you build out the potential of this entire platform. Now, Steve, you're not far away from releasing this publicly, and when you imply that enterprises can be some of those developers, you would know some. So, Steve, tell us what you do know. What can you tell us about some of these enterprise parties that might be calling you, or you're calling them and saying, can we have some sort of strategic partnership? Tell us some of the scale of partnership potential and what you're actually doing and forging in the partnership side of the business.
So first of all, our enterprise customer is different than a lot of people are saying blockchain enterprise customer. It's different. When we talk about a blockchain enterprise customer, basically, okay, a potential enterprise customer will use the smart contract to build some decentralized apps to handle enterprise-related functions or process. And this is the market for like Ethereum for other blockchain.
Right.
We are not in this market, or at least is not our forecast in current stage. Our current stage really focus on people who want to build a communication apps and need a communication service in this segment. And as you know, for example, an internet company, they may need to build a messenger app, or they need a streaming capability, and we will talk to them, and they will use our service, use the SDK. So those customers, depend on their size. If they are bigger size, you can call them enterprise customer. But I usually don't use this name, enterprise customer.
I see. So Steve, I guess I want to ask you though, obviously the range of clients is, the whole continuum ranges from individuals all the way up to major corporations. But the big question is, in this discussion of potential clients utilizing technology, are you currently speaking with some substantial parties that want to develop apps using your communication network?
Yes, of course. We have advisor Zoom, right? Right now we are using Zoom. And the CEO Eric Yuan is my friend and the
I'll just jump in and clarify that for everyone. So Eric Yuan, he is the CEO and founder of Zoom. We're using Zoom right now. He is literally the CEO, and he's your advisor. That's major. You really can't get much bigger.
Yes, because we were colleagues in Webers, and we have been in friendship for over 20 years. And then now he's doing the enterprise communication, right? Zoom is for enterprise, and they also have several other communication apps or service, and we are exploring some opportunities to provide our service. Underlying service to them. So that's one thing we are talking. And we also, as I mentioned before, we have an investor. He is a co-founder of Hikvision. That's the largest video camera, video surveillance product company in the whole world. I think they almost 50% of surveillance camera are manufactured by them.
So the largest video surveillance company in the world is potentially partnering with Top Network.
Yes, those kind of video cameras send so much data. You see, it's a communication end user. A device actually is the end user, right? And think about it, say, 1 million video cameras every day. They are capturing videos, and these videos needed to send to many places. That need a huge bandwidth, and the cost actually is very high in the network side. and build the infrastructure is very difficult in large scale.
Right. So they want to partner with you so that you can provide the actual full stack solution.
Yes. So we are like, part of the solution, and their customer can use it. Think about it. Their customer, they purchase the video surveillance equipment, camera, back-end device, all those kind of, they put it together, and they need to connect them in a network, right?
Right.
A single device doesn't work. You need the bandwidth, you need the connection,
Right.
and those customer may need our service, and our service definitely can reduce the cost and make the job easy to build this thing.
Sure. Yeah. Now, with that in mind, Steve, obviously there are many different types of clients. When we talk about the world's largest video surveillance system, when we talk about Zoom, obviously they are big. They are really big partnerships. They're really big deals, and they would be done behind closed doors, privately. But is there some sort of pricing system, Steve, that you have in place for the service? Because you have the tech, you will obviously want to make revenue, make money. Have you got a system that enables that clearly? And if you do, will you let the public know at some point how this system works?
So, those are true enterprise customer in your definition, enterprise, right? They are true enterprise customer.
True.
I mean, potential. And however, if you look at enterprise customer, there is a very, very special requirement. Enterprise customer only use mature stuff. They don't like test stuff. They don't like initial stage product. And as you know, we are only in the testnet side, right? So in this stage, we are really just exploring how to implement this, how to integrate with them. And I think the real work will start after we launch the MainNet.
Right. Well, let's
talk. However, we need to do something now, right? Right. And so we are doing basically three things. One thing is our own apps. So that's the easy part, right? Move our own apps to the new platform. That's one thing. Secondly, we are talking to some internet companies. That's more easy than enterprise customer because they are more open, more flexible, and they can do, they can start implement when you are even in testnet. So that's the second thing we are doing. And the last thing we are doing, the enterprise customer. So we are working with them to explore solutions. Once we have every piece ready, then we can announce the partnership and build real things, offer real things.
Right. So, Steve,
that takes some time.
Sure. So, as you move out into the mainnet, can we expect some of those announcements and disclosures about some of the real businesses doing real agreements with you?
Yes. We, of course, once we are ready, we will announce them. And we don't announce, as I mentioned, we are not like some people are doing a lot of PR stuff.
A lot of PR pumping.
Once they sign agreement, they say, "Oh, we have a partnership" or something like that.
Right.
We don't want to do that.
Okay. I can simplify that for you. So you're not about bullshit. You're not about blockchain bullshit. You're about, again, really trying to make sure that if those partnerships are real, you'll disclose them, but they are long-term partnerships. They're not just strategic, superficial partnerships for a pump in a speculative market. So I hear that. Now, Steve, let's talk about roadmap for a moment. Now, in your roadmap, it's very clear that you want to address more shards, increase more nodes. You have some other activities that are more market-driven. But what I wanted to find out more was MainNet itself. Let's discuss dates of exactly when the MainNet's planned.
So we plan to launch the MainNet on June, and so far right now, I think we are still on schedule. Based on the past experience, I mean, other projects, there may be some unexpected issues. I don't know, but my plan is to launch it on June,
Right.
and
So mid-year.
it may take a little bit of time. Yeah, more
Right.
time.
Okay. So June is obviously, you know, a few months away now, about 3 months, 3 to 4 months. Now, obviously, that's not too far. You've got a lot of work to do until then. How is everything going? Are you on track? Are you building out all the things that you plan to do with your milestones?
Yeah, just as I mentioned, you know, so far right now, we are still on track. Every major piece are still on track. Yeah, and that's the sense I can see. However, just as I mentioned, you know, there are something I couldn't see or I don't see. For example, like security issues. That's a really a headache because you know you don't know when security issue happens.
Right.
And you don't know your security issues before it happens. And that's the things that keep me up at night. And I would say, you know, those kind of things, unexpected things may cause a little bit of delay about the testnet, the mainnet. And actually, it did happen to many other projects. For example, as we can see, you know, like Zilliqa, the launcher was delayed because there's something unexpected.
Sure.
It's normal. I would say normal.
You're being transparent though about the potential for this to be delayed if it needs to be for a little bit of time. But the point is that you've been on track so far. You're aiming for around about June approximately. But again, you're very much driven with the product first, the quality of this and the quality of the code will determine the actual date of the mainnet release. So I appreciate all that honesty. Now, with regard to some strong partnerships, some of the ones that I've noticed are Binance and Ontology. Now, Steve, you recently were in attendance with CZ at a Unity and Strength function. You have clearly planned a collaboration with Ontology, with Layer 2 solutions. How important are those two, given they are arguable giants in the industry?
You know, the partnership with Ontology is very important because they have already have the blockchain platform there, and it's a very good platform. And for us, our top network, the communication layer, actually is open. It can work with many other blockchain platforms, not only ourselves. And it will work with Ontology, the platform, and if the Ontology platform, I mean the ecosystem, have a lot of developers, and if the developers want to develop apps with communication features, so they can access the top network and even pay with ONT or ONG. And that's one way, you know, that's a different kind of partnership. So we have an enterprise customer partner, and those kind of blockchain partnership. And
so this one's quite big. This one's quite big because it's a cross-chain, it's a cross-collaboration blockchain partnership, and they could use their tokens to interact with your ecosystem. So it's literally even a cross-token collaboration.
Yes. You know, communication, the service should be open to the whole world, right? We shouldn't restrict the user from using what kind of tokens. And every ecosystem, they may need communication features or communication apps, and we should offer the service to them. So we are very open, you know, to work with other project, other blockchain platform. I think.
And you mentioned they're good. I just want to interrupt and ask. You mentioned that Ontology is good. Now, obviously, you've done your own assessment of that. Is it fair to say, Steve, that you are only going to work and cross-collaborate and interoperate with blockchains that you determine are of the highest caliber?
Oh yes, we want to, you know, we only want to work with a good project, and you know, the project has to be already ready. The mainnet already live, and obviously, you know, Ontology is one of them, and there are a few others, but very limited. A few others, we will also work with them, And next month you will probably see an announcement from
Right.
us.
I was going to ask if you could tell us, but you're not going to.
Partnership. Yeah.
I was hoping you
similar
might.
partnership. Very similar partnership.
Okay, so another big blockchain's coming. That's exciting. Now, Binance, let's talk about that. Binance has all the volume right now. They are on the tip of many people's tongue with discussions about, the question of monopoly, the question of, how we're going to eventually decentralize the game so that things become a little bit more fairer. But right now, Binance and CZ have everyone in checkmate. They're playing the game very well. How important has it been for you to be working with CZ and the Binance?
Okay, so eventually, Brad, the token has to be listed, right? Eventually, sooner or later. And but for us, we are not in a very hurry mode to list the token because as you see, our MainNet has not been launched yet, and there's no real usage for the ERC20 token. You see, and there is no need to list the token right now, and to keep it as a pure utility token has to be a native token. You see, ERC20 token is not a utility token because ERC20 token has no use.
Right. And actually, it's funny you said that because right now the SEC is making that very clear distinction. They even use terms such as non-compliant tokens for that pre-utility phase, which is really essentially what is a security in many sense. So what you're saying is these native tokens, if they have true utility post mainnet, that's when things are actual real utilities.
Yes, you get it. So that's the reason, we will skip the ERC20 tokens and yes, and so that's a way to make the token true utility token. And as you see, compliance is very, very important, right? And we want to make sure every step is compliant to regulations. And we are very careful. So back to the topic, we will list the tokens in the future once the native token is there. But right now we need to talk to those kind of exchanges. Eventually you had to be listed by someone, right? Either Binance or Huobi or those kind of exchanges. So we have been in conversation with all those kind of top tier exchanges, and I think each side has a very good feeling, but right now we don't have a plan to list. We don't have a plan.
And Steve, I'm really glad that you're being so genuine and transparent about this, because this is a speculative industry right now, and people really need to hear this conversation about true utility, because from the top down, the SEC are making it crystal clear that's the way in which they're going to address utilities. They're going to provide an avenue for them to exist, but they're going to certainly regulate them. Now, let's talk a little bit more about your raise, though. Now, you raised with some prominent VCs, $8 million approximately in that initial sale. Now, I wanted to ask you, when you do hit the market eventually, when you do list and you become, that utility token becomes accessible for the investor, I guess we can call it, what can we anticipate? What kind of things are going to happen at that mainnet with regard to, is there going to be a public sale? What is going to happen?
I cannot predict what they will do once they got the tokens. I don't know. And each investor, some of them are long term, some of them maybe short term, as you said, maybe speculate. I really cannot control them. But I think as long as the token has a real usage, volume usage, it's fine. Either you sell it or hold it. We don't worry about it too much about that. That's the key. If the token has no usage, it's a huge pressure, right?
Sure. Now, Steve, utility is the core tenant. Everything's about utility for your token. But I want to ask you two things. Are you planning on doing any kind of public token offering, any kind of TGE, any kind of means in which the public can go and buy the token at some sort of special event? Or will it just simply go to exchange once your mainnet's up, once everything's running? What exactly are you planning to do for public access?
Okay, we don't have a plan to launch a public token sale. I would say, it will create more problem than benefit. And
especially little ones.
Yes, it's create trouble, and it doesn't generate a lot of benefit. So I think we will just direct list the tokens, the native tokens, and people can buy the native tokens from the exchange.
Right. Now, Steve, that's important to know. Now, Steve, the number of tokens, all those kind of metrics, they are important. If people would like to know them, you can certainly go to the website. It's all available. But Steve, I wanted to talk to you about the correlation of value. That is important to understand from the CEO. Now, if someone is going to be able to access the token on exchange, which will happen eventually, how can they trust that the utility they buy is going to correlate with the business growth of the company? It's a tough question, I know.
Oh, that's an excellent question. I don't think I have a good answer about that, because once the token is listed on exchange, even though it's a utility token base, however, as long as it can be traded, you cannot control the price. It will go up and it may go down, right?
Right.
And that is an issue. I would say that is an issue for the ecosystem. And but so far right now, I haven't seen a good solution to this.
I see. So the thing is, I want to ask you, Steve, is it something that your team are trying to look at? For example, looking at the best models of treasuries, of internal systems of conversion. Are you saying that you're looking at options now to ensure that you have something that's pretty strong?
Sorry, Brad, I don't get it.
Okay, so you're saying that right now, you're explaining that there is a bit of a problem in the sense that once the speculators can access the token, everything's volatile. But right now, there are some companies that are building out internal treasuries, internal mechanisms, internal systems of governance to make sure that they can convert essentially fiat or other stablecoin investments into the native token so that they can manage and convert, then handle the token itself internally to ensure its value. So my question was, given that you are aware this is a problem, are you looking at ways to solve this before you actually release the native token?
For our token economy, for the decentralized communication, we actually don't worry about it too much about this part, because this is a marketplace model, and people, as long as the system has enough customer and enough nodes, so they will actually create a free market, and they will be a marketing price, not like a fixed price. So if the token price goes up, the asking price over the nodes, a node will go down, and means the app, the developers, the users just needed to pay less tokens.
Right.
Let me give you an example. Let's say VPN. So the VPN cost is pegged to fiat currency, right? Because the data center charges fiat currency, you see.
Right.
And let's say 1 gigabyte cost, let's say 20 cents, US dollar, 20 cents. Yeah, and let's say the top token is 1 token, 1 cent. That means like 1 gigabyte data means 20 top tokens, right? Yeah. And if a user uses 1 gigabyte data, okay, the user needed to pay 20 top tokens. That 20 top tokens goes to a node, right? The node receives the 20 tokens. Let's say the token price doubled.
Okay.
Means one top token equals 2 cents. Then the app developer, the user, they don't want to pay the same 20 tokens because that's equal to 40 cents, right?
Exactly.
Okay, the user say, I only want to pay 10 top tokens. And in another side, that's the node. And the node, if they still ask for 20 tokens, they want to get the business because the user only willing to pay 10 tokens, you see?
Sure. So everything moves according to the price of fiat, essentially.
Yes, essentially, there's one condition: you need enough node, enough people to provide the service, and enough customer need the service. So as long as the ecosystem, there are so many participants, it's a free market. It's yeah.
Now, Steve,
it's a capitalism market.
Now, Steve, let's talk about that in the context of BTC, because up until recently, there's been a really strong correlation between BTC and everything else in the marketplace. There's been a strong coupling effect. Now, what you're suggesting is that top is not going to be like that, that it's actually going to be more aligned with fiat in terms of pegging so that you can go and do proper business. Is that fair to say that you're decoupling so you can run your own enterprise?
Yeah. So actually, we are creating a decentralized marketplace, and essentially it will has a similar function like a stable coin.
Right.
Even though top token is not a stable coin. So that means that in terms of fiat currency, the user and the node, they are getting or they are spending the same amount of money in terms of fiat currency. That's actually the function of a stable coin, right?
Right.
Yeah. So we use a free market to create something equal to a stable coin.
I see.
But your question ask me, why don't you provide a stable coin?
Yes, that is a good question. You could. Thanks for asking that.
First of all, a stable coin actually is a centralized stuff, right? You need a deposit a certain amount US dollars into somewhere, and that's what USDT is doing, right? And but a lot of people are complaining that it's not transparent. So there are some other issues for the stable coins, but I cannot say we are not going to do that in the future. But at this moment, I would say it's not a good option for us.
Got it.
And so that's
so you're focused primarily on your own token in the context of fiat because it's already essentially a universal digital system.
Yeah. We are, the user, the nodes are not using fiat, but from their point of view, they use fiat currency as a benchmark. You see?
Yes. For value of the token.
Yeah, we are living in a real world, right? So the real world pegged to the fiat currency.
Right, and you raise a good point because we don't, as you said, we don't want people losing money because of the volatility of price of tokens. So that's what you're saying is that because of the real world value of fiat, you can use that as a peg of value to then move across into the transactions of tokens at any given point. So it's a really important economic point that you're making so that people don't lose out. Now, Steve, one of the things that is interesting is you have a community engagement strategy that's quite robust. You are attending many different events. You're very busy as a team, but you also have an ambassador program. So talk us through that. Why is it there and what is your plan to do with it?
First of all, Brad, I would say, right now, all those kind of meet up, conference, I would say, it's frankly say, it doesn't have a lot of value for example, like a developer community. It's not a really very useful.
Expensive.
Yes. However, it may be useful for the long term. In the end, if you think about it, Brad, if I'm pretty sure my project will be successful, then I'm willing to do, marketing and the branding at this stage, because in the end, we want the outside the customer and the developer, they build something on our network, right?
Right, exactly.
So we need to start doing right now, not like, okay, we stay at the office or home, then once the mainnet launches, then we go out. That's too late. So we started doing right now. But frankly say, it doesn't have impact to the current situation. Means like, developer want to come to your platform to build app right now because they think it's still too early. So you know what? The funny thing, you know, there are so many hackathon events, right? People organize a hackathon, ask a developer spend 2 days or 1 day build an app. I would say that's just for PR. There's no real use because you cannot build a serious app in 2 days.
That's a good point. So your approach is much more serious. You really want to be there for long-term building and getting to forge really strong partnerships with developers so they can build real stuff. Yes.
So we do those kind of marketing stuff. We talk to developers. We attend a conference, meet up. We do. However, our expectation is for long term, not for short term.
Right.
It's not our purpose to attend an event to get a developer right now or get more people to buy the token. We are not doing this way.
I see. Yes, that makes sense. So you have these ambassadorships, you have bounty systems, referral campaigns. They are all your long-term strategies to try and educate and inform about the seriousness of your project.
Yes. So what we are doing now is all for long-term. Especially, in the current market condition, you really cannot do anything for the short term because short term is a dead market.
Right.
You see?
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Especially when you're pre-mainnet as well. Really, the core value is education until the utility comes to the fore.
Yes. Yeah.
Right. So you're doing some great things now. Your GitHub, as you mentioned, most of it's closed and it's done so that people can't go and appropriate your code. And that will evolve. So that, but what about socials? If people want to know more about all the things that you're planning on doing, especially given that you're bringing in real apps with real users, 50 million from just 3 as one example, into your platform to really kickstart this, how can they learn more about all of this?
You mean
in terms of Medium or Telegram or different ways via website? How can people learn more about Top?
Okay, so we have actually many articles in our Medium channel. Telegram channel, you really cannot see those kind of articles. So if you check out our medium.com channel, you can see a lot of articles about our project. And but that's about overall description about our project. If you really want to understand, especially more in details about the technology side, we needed to invite you into our private GitHub, or we will send you some source code or some design document. One of the reasons we roll out the ambassador program, we want to actually, we want to get some technical people, technical ambassador, and we want those people part of our development team, even though they are not going to do full-time job, right? But we want them to provide the feedback about our implementation, about our algorithm, about our code, those kind of things.
Absolutely. So for those people who are technically savvy, that understand the inner workings of blockchain and even of any DLT code, make sure that you do go and look at the opportunities here, because what Steve is explaining to all the people in that industry is that there is a potential for ambassadorships there.
Yes, but frankly said, Brad, it's hard to find a really good ambassador, in the technical side. It's difficult, because there are only very few people really on the, can do technical things.
Right, and technically, and explain it in a way that is probably palatable for the lay person. That's a challenge as well.
Yeah, they have to be developers by themselves. Yeah, and they also need to understand the blockchain, cryptograph, decentralized P2P, all those kind of concepts.
Right.
So those people are very limited. However, the good news, we are in Silicon Valley. Just like I mentioned, we have a right now, actually 7 o'clock right now, with a lot of Google engineers, Facebook engineers. Those kind of people are very smart and they know blockchain. We invited them into a conference. We show our design, even show our source code, and let them challenge us. And we will assign some bounty tasks and say, hey, this is the algorithm of our consensus. And if you can improve that, or if you find a bug, we may give you 1 BTC, something like that.
It's a bit like, it's a bit like universities when they do those classic mathematic problems that they put up in the hallways, and they allow the top students to try and solve them. It's the same concept, except that you're incentivizing that, utilizing crypto as a reward. So it's a really interesting strategy that you are doing there. Now, Steve, we've actually run out of time today. There's so much stuff that we could go through, and hopefully we can catch up again. But Steve, there's a lot happening for you until you get to MainNet. Hopefully, mate, we can catch up again before that happens. Is there anything you'd like to say to the audience to finish off today's interview?
First of all, Brad, we have a bi-weekly report. It's also on our media.com, and we put all the progress there, and we announce all the news there. So if you follow our media.com channel, you will know all those kind of things. Actually, the Telegram group doesn't offer those kind of clear information. Yeah, so I would encourage you follow our Twitter and follow the media.com, and you will see our progress bi-weekly.
Absolutely. Well, Steve, it's been a really great opportunity to learn all about things. Final statement, Steve, go for it.
Yeah, thank you, Brad, and we have a very good conversation, and thanks everyone for watching the video, and I hope we can really bring something real to the industry and bring the value to the end users. I believe blockchain should create a value to real business, to real to users, not like for crypto speculation. And hopefully that's our contribution to the industry, to the community. Thank you, guys.
Thank you very much, Steve. So essentially, you're putting use into utility, you're taking the BS out of crypto, and you're making this all about MainNet and beyond. You're aligning with all the regulations and all the regulatory requirements from the top down. You're also aligning that with grassroots movements from the bottom up, in terms of developments, communications, applications, and most importantly, you're engaging with traditional sectors as well to be able to enable blockchain, enable these companies to be more efficient, more productive, more prominent in the new and emerging space that is blockchain and beyond. So thank you very much for your time. This is a communication network that really is leading out some of the biggest plans and networks in the industry right now. So if you haven't checked them out, make sure you go and see Top Network in their website. And Steve, CEO, thank you very much for your time, and we'll talk to you very soon.
Thank you for your time.
Thanks, Steve.